All right, everyone, we have hit peak clown world with the wokeness. Lucian Greaves, the leader of the Satanic Temple, know them as the ones that challenged Oklahoma there with their, Ten Commandments monument. Said, okay, I don't have a problem with your Ten Commandments monument. We'll just build a Moloch statue right next to it. That's fine, right? And of course, it wasn't fine to them at the time, but they did get their statue put in place. He's being dragged right now because he took a picture with another person, namely David Silverman. So an atheist, hardline atheist who's not, taken in by every element of wokeness. So it's basically like a J.K. Rowling scenario. You play 90% purist when it comes to progressivism, so all of the sub-issues, but you don't want women to be victimized. And so, much like J.K. Rowling and a bunch of others, even though you're a far leftist, practically a fucking pinko, you're still not woke enough for the uber wokers. And so you get in trouble for that and you should be silenced. Lucian Greaves getting calls to step down as the leader of the Satanic Temple for posing with a picture with somebody that he was not even generally aware of to any complete degree. I don't even have words to express how funny this is. I say this as a former Satanist. Of course, I was never a member of the Satanic Temple or the Church of Satan or any order like that, and this is years ago. Some people think I'm still a Satanist because I have 666 in my username. Pro tip, when you've got a brand that's relatively well known, like 400 million YouTube views well known, you don't change it generally. That's generally a bad idea. And also, it helps to keep some of the Bible thumpers away. I'm always worried somebody's going to think I'm, Jesus, Jesus. They're going to think that I'm an uber hardcore Christian simply because of my views on like taxes or guns or something. Because people have that weird football team mentality where it's basically you agree with me on these two issues, so you must be just like me, or you disagree with me, so you must be like at the opposite end of some spectrum that doesn't exist. So it really depends on what I talk about. And one of the groups of people that I've had the most problems with, especially early on in my content creation, were Bible thumpers. That was the first group of people that ever tried to cancel me. It wasn't the woke. They didn't really exist to the same degree back then. It wasn't pinko fucking commies back then doing it. It was moralists from the right wing. I say that term loosely. Moralists, Deus Volters, basically. Fire and brimstone, you're going to hell. Instead of telling me that Jesus loves me, they tell me that he really wants to torture me forever, and never really found much evidence that that was a proper Christian doctrine when I actually read the Bible, which many of them have never fucking cracked open. Their copy has dust on it. I probably read more biblical literature even now. I fucking edit books of Christian mysticism and on various subtopics anyway. Beyond that, beyond the cancel culture mob as applied to me, I just find it hilarious that a group that effectively exists to be edgy and to push that envelope, sometimes for a good purpose, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, and so forth, would be absorbed by wokeness. The Satanic Temple cannot really go along with the woke cancel culture, social justice warrior mob that it's currently attempting to deal with, while at the same time continuing to stand for liberty. And this is my summation of Satanism in general. When we're talking about atheistic Satanism, which is what most Satanists are, they don't worship the devil, they don't worship some pagan entity associated with the devil like Enki. There are groups that do. Most of them, 90%, are atheists or agnostics, and it's an edgy floor show. This is how the Church of Satan was invented in the 1960s. Anton LaVey was an attention-seeking circus showman edgelord who said, look, I ain't got an idea. I'm gonna make a lot of money off of it too. And yeah, he did. He did fairly well for himself. Still died mainly penniless, but for a while he was a big thing. Back in the 60s and 70s, constantly on TV and shit. He got burned out and had his daughter doing everything for him towards the early 80s, actually, as the official spokesperson. Better than the one that they have now. Public Relations by Peggy Nadramia. Try having a conversation with her sometime and see how that works out for you. Effectively, it was nothing more than his way of selling membership into what he incorporated literally for tax purposes, and basically said, look, all that I'm doing is giving people rituals. They don't do anything. He didn't believe in an actual devil or anything. And I'm making money off it. I'm doing exactly what the church does, but I'm paying taxes. I'm being very honest about the fact that I don't even really believe in my own bullshit. So he'd have the rituals, and they'd have the big titty topless girls laying on the altar, and naturally they got a bunch of socialites in there to have a spooky time, and he'd play his organ music and write books and stuff like that. And was definitely a visionary in that sense. By the way, large parts of that doctrine were lifted out of Ragnar Redbeard's Might is Right and have both nationalistic and libertarian overtones. It's like an Ayn Rand novel. Um, so that's the origins of Satanism. If you look later on, what's Boyd Rice? He was a high priest in the church today. What was he known for? Being an edgelord. Wearing a shirt that says rape on it and going out into the woods and bumbling around and saying weird shit. There was one concert, I guess, in which he aimed floodlights at the crowd until they became enraged and people started leaving. And he's just sitting there laughing. It's the whole point. It's basically, hey, you just gave me money to abuse you. Great for you. That's Satanism. Satanism has to be very pro-liberty or else it snuffs itself out. It's the whole fucking doctrine. The doctrine is literally lifted from Americana quasi-libertarianism from the late 19th century. Basically, fuck the state, fuck you, fuck society. I want to do what I want. I've got the might to do so. Everything that I do is right unless you're in my way or something, in which case, there's a parlay, but stay away from me and let me go shoot my guns. Basically it. By the way, have you seen The Great Satan at Large? You should probably watch that, especially the Israel 666 episode. Again, more satanic imagery associated with what is effectively a highly libertarian punk rock message at the time. Lou Perfidio, literally a punk rocker, dying in his 40s because he wouldn't stop drinking and chain smoking and doing other drugs as well. There's a whole screed online about that. So I find this hilarious. If the Temple of Satan wants to namby-pamby people that are going to be perpetually outraged about one thing or another anyway, it will snuff itself out. It'll no longer be, hey, haha, we're going to troll the Oklahoma Bible thumpers by putting up the Moloch statue next to the Ten Commandments, and there's nothing they can legally do about it. I applauded them for doing that at the time. I don't give a shit if a statue of Jesus is there. Although you're not really supposed to be making graven images, I would point out. But then the flying spaghetti monster people can put the pasta strainer next to it and say this is the true Lord. And, they replace the spaghetti every once in a while, or, it's fake spaghetti. It doesn't rot. Maybe that's a good thing too. Maybe it's a sin. I'm not sure. And the Discordians can come along and put up some mumbo jumbo painting, some post Nouveau avant-garde painting that represents the confusion that is their religion. And so at Islam, what are you going to say when they have a bunch of Islamic iconography in the courthouse in Flint? It's the same thing. On that, I applauded them, but on this, it's like, you're threatening to oust your leader for posing for a picture simply because the person in that picture, who is not entirely known to him anyway, says that women shouldn't be canceled and wokeness is beginning to infringe upon free expression, which he's right. It is. This is ironically an example of that same thing. So, yeah, I guess there's a satanic civil war at the moment. There are a few reasons that I left Satanism behind, and this kind of infighting does come to mind as well. That's about all. Peace out.